Hello, this is Edward. Who am I speaking with?
Hey Edward, it's Troy. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to review Lululemon. Lululemon's really changed as a brand over the years, and I think they've really, uh, I don't want to say lost the plot, but they've lost their value in the market. There's a lot of discontention between what the original founder wanted and the direction that they're going. So, what I want to do here is do a quick teardown review. I'm recording this session right now, and I'm going to look at their page. We're going to look at some articles. We're going to look at Aloe Yoga, and we are also going to look at Viore. I believe that's how it's pronounced. And we're going to go through some of that. You ready?
Troy, good to hear from you. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's tear this down. Before we dive into their site and the competitors, tell me this. When you look at Lululemon now versus what they were, what's the core positioning shift you're seeing? What did they own before that they're losing grip on now? And when you mention the founder tension, what's the specific conflict there? Is it about who they're serving or what they stand for?
I believe it's around what they stand for. When I knew Lululemon, they were a core lifestyle athletic leisure brand that if you wore them, if you wore Lululemon, even if you didn't try, you looked good. Lululemon just made anybody look good at any given time. And I believe over the years, where they've lost the plot is they overproduced a ton of goods and they didn't really have good, I guess they didn't have good enough distribution. And they've created this brand called, or this thing inside their menu called We Made Too Much. And it's a bit of a discount brand now. And they're trying to get rid of large amounts of clothing at a discount, which is just positioning suicide. It's destroying their brand. And yeah, those are my first thoughts. I have a couple articles that I want to read off for you as well.
That's positioning suicide. You're right. They went from scarcity and aspiration to clearance rack mentality. We made too much is them admitting operational failure publicly and training customers to wait for discounts. That's not a sales section, that's a confession. So they had something powerful, effortless transformation. You put it on, you looked better. That's not about fabric, that's about identity elevation. And now they're competing on inventory management instead of aspiration. Here's what I'm hearing. They shifted from who you become when you wear it to what we need to move. That's a supply chain problem dressed up as a brand strategy. Before we look at the articles, answer this. Who do you think Lululemon is actually serving now? Not who they say they're serving, but who's actually buying? And more importantly, who stopped buying when this shift happened?
It's tough because Lululemon's now entering discount rack territory. Like I've actually seen a lot of their clothes in thrift stores and Winners and what would the other company be called? Anyways, they're on discount racks, and I think they're the people that are buying them are folks that knew that they used to be good quality, but now they can get them at a discount. Like they've lost that, I think, entire avid fan base. And like that avid fan base has also grown up and become older as well. So I don't think they met the market where the market was at. They tried staying frozen in time. And now it appears that they are trying to market to, I think, everyone. So they have women's easy five pants, steady state, unrestricted power, men's easy five pants. Then they have shop popular activities. They have a men and women tab, shop Pilates, shop workout, shop casual, shop running, shop tennis, shop yoga. Then in the men's tab, shop tennis, shop golf, shop running, shop workout, shop casual, and shop work. So I believe they're appealing to everyone and anyone, and they're trying to do that to get mass distribution. I truly believe that they need international distribution and that they should go back to. I know it's really hard to go back to your original positioning, but take the original positioning and then go international. Don't do it as local in North America as they were, but attaching, the bring back who they were, that aspirational leader. to their core position, I think that's going to be really important.
You just nailed the death spiral. They're trying to be everything to everyone, which means they're nothing to anyone. Shop Pilates, shop tennis, shop golf, shop work. That's not positioning, that's a department store menu. And here's the brutal truth. You can't discount your way to aspiration. The people buying at Winners aren't brand advocates. They're bargain hunters who remember when Lululemon meant something. That's not a customer base. That's a eulogy. You mentioned they froze in time while their core aged out. That's critical. Who was that original core? The yoga forward, wellness, aspirational woman who wanted to signal a certain lifestyle, right? And they didn't evolve with her or find the next generation of her.
Hmm.
They just expanded horizontally into every activity instead of deepening vertically into identity. Your international play idea is interesting, but here's my question. What position would they actually own internationally that isn't already contested? Halo Yoga and Vori are eating their lunch domestically. What's the category they could own abroad that they've lost here? And before we look at those competitors, tell me this. What do Halo Yoga and Vori stand for that Lululemon abandoned?
Good question. So without having they have a little feedback widget on the side of their website. It's like extremely pixelated and like looks pretty cheap, which I think is actually hilarious that it's attached to the top section of their landing page. So let's go to Elo Yoga quick and look at their page. So, okay, Elo Yoga looks like who are they going after? They're going after young to early early 30s, mid 30s women, and they have a big vintage pink section here. Oh, this is all in Spanish because I'm in Mexico here. So, wonder if I can go straight to their alloyoga.com. No, it automatically keeps me here. Let's just translate it. So, okay. Hmm. I believe they've went purely after the yoga and tennis market, and just they've taken over the brand that Lululemon used to have, it appears.
Hold on. You're seeing something critical here. Alo automatically localized you to Mexico and their site is in Spanish. That's international execution that Lululemon should have owned years ago. And look at what they're doing visually. Young, aspirational, focused. They're not trying to be golf and work and running and Pilates. They own yoga and they're expanding from a position of strength into adjacent territories like tennis. That vintage pink section, that's not random. That's signaling a specific aesthetic, a specific identity. It's cohesive. It's not, we have something for everyone. It's, if you're this person, this is your brand. Now flip back to
Yeah, it's
Lululemon's
like
home.
inside here, if you see yourself in this, you're like, yeah, that's me. That's what I want. Whereas Lululemon's homepage, the main hero section here is sleek spacer sets always go, period. New soft, structured styles, stretch comfort beyond your cool down.
Sleek spacer sets. Soft, structured style stretch comfort beyond your cool down. That's word salad. That's a committee trying to say everything and saying nothing. There's no identity there, no aspiration, no enemy, no transformation. Compare that to Alo's visual clarity. You look at Alo and you see yourself or who you want to be. You look at Lululemon and you see fabric features. They went from identity brand to product descriptor. That's the shift. Now let's look at Vori. Pull them up. I want to see what they're doing that's pulling the other half of Lululemon's base. Because Alo took the women's yoga aspirational lane, Vori's doing something different. What do you see when you land on their page?
So it automatically put me to the men's view of their site. I think that's just natural. This is interesting. So Viore, introducing Viore Meta Cotton, the perfect balance of structure, softness, and breathable comfort. Shop now, learn more. Popular categories: men, short sleeve tee, shorts, hoodies, sweatshirts, pants. And then if I go to the women's, matching sets, hoodies, sweatshirts, leggings, shorts, swim. But they do appear to have like a very athletic mm, persona and perception that they're building here. young, chic, hip. Yeah, they're definitely building a bit of a visual identity, not nearly as strong as LO Yoga, but that's what I see.
Vori landed you on men's first. That's deliberate. They're owning a lane Lululemon abandoned. Men's athleisure with actual masculine identity, not just
Hmm,
yoga pants for guys. And notice they're leading with a proprietary fabric innovation. Meta Cotton. That's a reason to believe. That's differentiation you can point to. Lululemon used to own that with their technical fabrics, but now they're just describing generic comfort. Vori's building around performance casual for a younger, active demographic. Alo owns yoga aspirational feminine. And Lululemon? They're trying to own everything, which means they own nothing.
nothing.
Here
No, that's great. Continue.
Lululemon lost the category they created. They invented athleisure aspiration and then handed it to focused competitors while they chased scale. Alo took the yoga identity. Vori took the performance casual men. And Lululemon sitting there with "We made too much" and a navigation menu that reads like a sporting goods store. Here's the strategic question. Can they get it back? Or is it too late? You mentioned going international with their original positioning. But here's the problem. Their original positioning was built on scarcity, community, and aspiration. We made too much, killed scarcity. Discount racks killed aspiration. And when you're in every category, you don't have community, you have customers. So if you were repositioning them, what would you do? Would you try to reclaim yoga? Would you create a new category entirely? Or would you do something else? And what enemy would you position them against? Because right now they're not fighting anyone. They're just existing.
This is a tough one. So, what I would think through this here is they are collecting feedback. I'm curious if they're getting any answers. But I think going into the yoga category may be very difficult, specifically abroad. I don't think they can reclaim the plot back in North America. Like, I think they could expand into China, into India, and to find more of the upper class wellness subsector. But that is very hard because they have discounted themselves so aggressively in North America. So reclaiming the luxury side will be very difficult, but accessible wellness wear could be quite unique because there's a lot of people that I think still, I mean, for me, even example, I enjoy comfortable athletic wear. I live in a hot country. It's just like I want to wear athletic wear and I want to look good because it's breathable. So there's something there. I'm not 100% sure what that looks like, but I think that's something that they could bet on.
Accessible wellness wear is dangerous territory. That's a polite way of saying mid-market. And mid-market is where brands go to die slowly. You're competing on price-value ratio, not identity.
Yeah,
That's not
my pushback with that though is reclaiming off of we made too much. Like they kind of need to reposition inside of that. They're not going to be able to claim a category without totally killing that and then rebuilding back up. So that's where that comes from.
You're right. They're stuck. They can't kill "we made too much" without admitting the strategy failed and taking a massive write-down. And they can't reclaim premium while training customers to wait for discounts. So here's the brutal reality: they're in no man's land. Too discounted to be aspirational, too expensive to compete on value. That's the worst place in positioning. But here's a different angle. What if they didn't try to reclaim what they lost? What if they created an entirely new category that leverages what they still have? They still have technical expertise. They still have distribution. They still have brand recognition, even if it's diluted. What if instead of athleisure or wellness wear, they positioned around something nobody owns yet? What's the uncontested space in this market? Think about it. Alo owns yoga aspiration. Vori owns performance casual. Outdoor Voices tried everyday movement. Gymshark owns gym culture. What's missing? What job are people trying to do that none of these brands are serving?
So I did notice in their header section they have a they have a little tennis section, which is called Cool Under Pressure. New breezy gear keeps air moving and you flowing. It's not bad. Then they have an Outrun Ordinary, new standout prints and breathable layers, bringing out your speed. So they are subtly trying to claim tennis and running, which I think could be interesting because tennis still has a higher end market. Like if you're playing tennis actively, you're in a different class of wealth generally. Um, Paddle is actually a really interesting up and coming subsector that I think a lot of people have not claimed yet, and it's becoming extremely popular. But I think that's an entirely different demographic. Hmm. Based on me saying that, what do you think?
Okay, this is critical. They're in brand death spiral territory. When premium positioning collapses into discount racks, you don't fix that by going broader. You fix it by going narrower and owning something new. Here's the strategic tension. Lululemon can't out-discount Alo or Vori. They've already lost that war. The "we made too much" section is a symptom, not a strategy. It's eroding whatever premium equity they have left. So let me ask you this. If we position Lululemon as the global authority on paddle culture and performance, what does that actually mean for the customer? What job are they hiring Lululemon to do that, Alo? Vori or even Nike can't touch. Is it about belonging to an emerging elite sport? Is it about technical performance for a specific movement style? Is it about being early to a cultural shift before paddle goes mainstream? Because the category we create here determines whether this is a survival move or a dominance move. What's the emotional trigger that makes someone choose Lululemon for paddle over everything else?
Good question. What is the emotional trigger that makes them choose Lululemon over everything else? Well, since they've went to the discount brand already, that's really hard to shift out of. So they need to enter rapid distribution with a market that trusts them because they clearly have a ton of overstock. They at one point had that brand of like everything just looked anyone that wore Lululemon, it could make you look good. And I think it's a really risky place for them to play, but I also think it's really hard to back out of what they've already created. So I think tagging into paddle, doing international expansion through, say, potentially China and India, big countries with huge distribution networks, making the clothing accessible but sexy and chic, and I believe having a heavier focus on women and then a handful of things for men that men could wear. It's a tough one. This is really challenging because it's like they're in commodity territory and breaking out of that territory is very tough.
You just nailed the core problem. They're in commodity hell. And commodity hell doesn't get fixed by distribution expansion. It gets worse. Here's what I'm hearing. Lululemon has massive overstock, eroded premium positioning, and you're trying to solve a supply problem with a positioning strategy. That's backwards. Flooding China and India with discounted athleisure doesn't create a category. It creates a clearance channel. So let me reframe this. If Lululemon is going to survive, they can't reposition the entire brand. That ship has sailed. What they need is a sub-brand or a category-defining line that operates independently of the damaged mothership. Think about it like this. Lululemon Paddle, or whatever we call it, becomes the premium, culturally relevant, category-owning brand. It's not about moving overstock. It's about creating scarcity, exclusivity, and belonging in an emerging sport that's exploding globally. The main Lululemon brand can keep doing discount racks
Yeah,
and
it can
broad
keep, oh, that's
distribution,
smart. It can
but this
keep pushing everything out, but then they create a sub brand called Lululemon Premium that brings back their original or something like that. Oh, keep going. This is smart.
exactly. Now we're talking category creation, not brand resuscitation. So here's the architecture. The main Lululemon brand becomes the accessible. mass market athleisure line. Fine. Let it live in discount racks. But you launch something like Lululemon Black or LLL Premium, or even just a completely separate name with a Lululemon endorsement that owns paddle culture globally. This sub-brand doesn't solve the overstock problem. It solves the relevance problem. It gives them a position they can own before anyone else claims it. Here's what that looks like operationally. Limited drops tied to major paddle tournaments in Spain, Mexico, Dubai, India, sponsorship of rising paddle athletes who become the face of the category. Paddle clubs in key cities where the gear is only available to members or tournament participants. You're not distributing widely. You're creating scarcity and cultural momentum. The emotional trigger here is early adoption of an elite emerging sport. The customer isn't buying workout clothes. They're buying entry into a movement that's about to explode. Now, here's my question. Do you want this sub-brand to be female-focused like the original Lululemon yoga positioning? Or does paddle give you permission to go co-ed from the start? Because that changes the archetype and the cultural play.
Hmm. I think you have to go co-ed.
Agreed. Paddle gives you that permission. It's inherently social, co-ed, and less gendered than yoga ever was. That's actually a strategic advantage because it lets you escape the female yoga brand anchor that's weighing down the mothership. So if we're going co-ed, the archetype shifts. This isn't the nurturing, self-care, wellness vibe of original Lululemon. This is competitive, social, aspirational. Think less, find your inner peace, and more, join the club. Here's where it gets interesting. Paddle is exploding in Spain, Mexico, Argentina, and starting to gain traction in the Middle East and Asia. These are markets where Lululemon doesn't own the athleisure conversation yet. So you're not fighting existing perceptions. You're defining a new category in territories where you can actually win. The positioning could be something like the global uniform of paddle culture. Not performance gear, not athleisure, the uniform. That implies belonging, identity, and exclusivity. Now, for this to work, you need a clear enemy. What are we positioning against? The old tired mass market athleisure that anyone can buy at a discount store? The generic tennis and sportswear brands that don't understand paddle culture? What's the villain in this story?
Gosh, I mean, the generic tennis makes the most sense for the villain in the story.
Perfect. Generic tennis brands are the ideal enemy because they represent the old guard trying to claim a new sport they don't understand. Tennis is country clubs, tradition, exclusivity through gatekeeping. Paddle is social, accessible, global, and culturally fluid. Tennis brands are trying to retrofit their gear for paddle, but they don't get the culture. They're tourists. Lululemon Premium, or whatever we call it, becomes the native language of paddle. The narrative becomes tennis brands make tennis gear for paddle players. We make paddle gear for paddle culture. That's the differentiation. It's not about performance specs or fabric technology, even though those matter. It's about cultural fluency. You're not adapting, you're defining. So here's the strategic framework taking shape. Category, global paddle culture, brand, enemy, legacy tennis brands colonizing a sport they don't understand. Emotional trigger, belonging to an emerging elite movement before it goes mainstream archetype, the rebel or the explorer. Someone who rejects the old rules and defines the new game. Now, here's the activation question. If you're launching this in China, India, Spain, where do you start? Which market gives you the most cultural momentum and the least resistance? Because the first market sets the tone for everything that follows.
Good question. What was the question again? Ask that again, please.
If you're launching this sub-brand in China, India, Spain, and other international markets, which market do you start with first? Which geography gives you the most cultural momentum and the least
Spain.
resistance? Spain is the right call. Paddle was born there, it's deeply embedded in the culture, and Spanish players are the global tastemakers. If you own Spain, you own credibility everywhere else. Here's why that matters strategically. Spain becomes your proof of concept. You're not some American brand trying to colonize a sport. You're earning your position in the birthplace of paddle culture. That authenticity travels. When you expand to China, India, Mexico, Dubai, you're not arriving as an outsider. You're arriving as the brand that was validated by the Spanish paddle community. So the launch sequence becomes Spain first for cultural credibility, then Mexico and Argentina, where paddle is exploding and there's existing affinity for premium brands. Then you move into China and India, where paddle is emerging and you can define the category before anyone else claims it. Now, here's the critical piece. In Spain, you can't just show up with product. You need to embed in the culture sponsorships, paddle clubs, tournament partnerships, local athletes as ambassadors. You're building a movement, not a product line. What does that look like in year one? What's the entry strategy that signals you're serious about owning this category, not just selling clothes? Because if you launch like a typical brand, you've already lost.
Oh, they'd have to put on events. Like they'd have to be putting on Lululemon premium paddle events. Oh, that has a nice rhyme to it. That has a nice ring to it. They'd have to own the total category and be like champions of the category.
Exactly. They become the category champion, not just a participant. Lululemon premium paddle events in Madrid, Barcelona, Marbella, you're not sponsoring existing tournaments. You're creating your own circuit that becomes the aspirational standard. Here's what that does strategically. It positions the brand as the authority, not a vendor. You're not asking for permission to play in paddle. You're defining what premium paddle culture looks like. The events become content, community, and distribution all in one. And here's the beautiful part. The gear isn't available in stores initially. You can only get it at events through the Paddle Club membership or limited online drops. Scarcity drives desire. You're solving the opposite problem of the main brand's overstock issue. The main Lululemon keeps flooding discount tracks. Lululemon Premium creates wait lists. Now here's where I need to push you. We're about 15 minutes into this conversation. You've got a framework taking shape. But there's a gap I'm noticing. You haven't clearly defined who the actual customer is yet. Not demographically, but psychographically. Who is the person that this positioning is built for? What are they trying to become by wearing this brand? Because without that clarity, the strategy stays conceptual.
Hmm, good question. How, ask me a question to get clear on that. I'm just actually looking at seeing how I can generate a logo here.
Hold on the logo. Visuals come after positioning, not before. If you design before you define the customer, you're guessing. Here's the question. When someone puts on Lululemon premium paddle gear and walks onto the court, what identity are they stepping into? Are they the competitive athlete who's early to an emerging sport? The social connector who uses paddle to build their network? The global citizen who
Social
moves
connector.
between social connector? That's your customer. That changes everything. This isn't about athletic performance or competitive dominance. It's about belonging, access, and social currency. The person wearing Lululemon Premium isn't trying to win tournaments. They're trying to be part of the right circles, in the right cities, with the right people. That means the emotional job here is social elevation through cultural fluency. Paddle becomes the vehicle. The gear becomes the signal. So the brand isn't selling performance fabric. It's selling membership to a global social network that happens to revolve around paddle. The events aren't competitions, they're networking opportunities with a sport attached. The gear isn't workout clothes, it's the uniform that grants you access. This is why Spain first makes even more sense. You're not launching in the biggest market, you're launching in the most socially prestigious market. Spain gives you the cultural capital that travels everywhere else. Now here's what this means for messaging and experience. Everything has to reinforce exclusivity and connection. Limited access, invite-only events, member referrals, global passport programs where your Madrid membership gets you into clubs in Dubai and Shanghai. Does that customer profile feel right? Or
Yep,
am I
feels exactly right because the I think the world's entering a very disconnected cultural shift where offline events are going to take a huge precedent. And I think this is going to be a big, expensive endeavor for them. And I don't know what their cash flow looks like to be able to do that. However, I think that this could get them on the forefront in the right direction so they can capitalize on connection events, paddle, the European social culture, and much more. I think it's just overall good direction here.
You're seeing the macro trend correctly. The cultural pendulum is swinging back to physical presence, real connection, offline status. Paddle sits perfectly at that intersection. It's social, it's physical, it's experiential. You can't fake it online. But here's the reality check: this is expensive. Events, sponsorships, club build-outs, athlete partnerships, limited production runs. This isn't a marketing campaign. This is a multi-year capital investment in category ownership. And if Lululemon's cash flow is tight because they're sitting on overstock and losing margin to discounting, they might not have the runway to execute this properly. Half-committed category creation is worse than no positioning at all. If they launch weak, they just validate that they've lost their edge. So before this goes further, there's a strategic question you need to answer. Is this a pitch you're making to Lululemon, or is this a theoretical exercise?
This
Because if you're
is this is a
actually
teardown. We're actually putting this into this is going to be on a YouTube video.
got it. So this is a public teardown, not an internal pitch. That actually makes this more interesting because you're not constrained by their internal politics or budget realities. You can show what the right move would be, even if they're unlikely to make it. Here's
Yeah.
what we've built. Lululemon's current position: eroded premium brand sliding into discount commodity territory, losing share to Alo and Vuori. The strategic move: don't try to save the mothership. Let it be mass market. Create a sub-brand, Lululemon Premium, that owns global paddle culture before anyone else claims it. The customer: social connectors using paddle as a vehicle for belonging and cultural fluency across global cities. The enemy: legacy tennis brands trying to colonize a sport they don't understand. The launch strategy: Spain first for credibility, then expand to Mexico, Argentina, China, India. Build through exclusive events, paddle clubs, and scarcity-driven drops, not mass distribution. The emotional job: social elevation through membership in an emerging elite movement. For the YouTube breakdown, that's a complete repositioning framework. It shows the problem, the solution, and the execution path. Is there anything else you want to layer in before you clip this? Or
That's it, Edward.
does
I'm going to end this off. This is fantastic. Thank you so much.
glad we cracked it. This was a solid teardown. Good luck with the video.